Who is Geoff Thompson? How do you tell people who you are in a couple minutes?
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can really, can you? I mean, and often that's been a problem with people when they've been promoting me. They don't really know what angle to come in at. But I was a kid that suffered with depression, had this massive creative urge, but nowhere to put it. You know, I was abused when I was 11. That left me with quite a damaged schema. So I was quite afraid of the world. I really wanted to explore the world, but I was also afraid of the world. I didn't trust people. So I was this scared kid with this massive energy, this creative energy, and because I didn't find an outlet for it, it created like a log jam or like a root band. Later on, as the depressions got worse, you know, I can remember having one particularly bad depression when I was in my early 20s and thinking, I just can't live like this anymore. I can't live with this. This feeling came into my life like an egregore, like a spirit, and just took over. It just destroyed me, battered me. I didn't want to leave the bedroom. And then other times I didn't want to get out of the covers, and the next minute I was smashing the house up in a rage. So I got this massive energy in me, but no outlet for it. I came from a working class background, which isn't important. I don't really think much about class other than the fact that I was conditioned to believe that this was my lot. And not just by you know, the middle classes and the higher classes, but by my own class. You know, if you talked at all about wanting to do something creative, you know, they battered you like a beach seal. It's like, don't be pretentious, don't get above your station. Who do you think you are? You know, you're not anybody. I used to find myself going, oh, I know I'm not anybody. I know I'm not anybody. But of course, we all know we are. We all know we have a singularity. We have a geometric point, don't we? We have a soul, a self in there that is connected to everything. And it wants to explore. It wants to trip the light fantastic. So there was just this one point where these depressions visited like a bullying stranger and came into my life and took over for a few months and said, we'll stay as long as we want. And, you know, we'll kick your door down and we'll leave you frightened to leave the house. You'll be following your wife around the house like a puppy because you'll be so afraid. You'll be afraid to live. And I remember reaching this one point where I was terrified of my own biology. I got this massive energy, and because I didn't find an outlet, this energy grew voices. And obviously it was like, you know, this energy was spilling at me, so it attracted beast and fowl. I was attracting negative energies from everywhere. I was a shit magnet. So I got all this energy, and I remember this was probably my first connection with spirit when I thought, I can't live like this anymore. I can't do this. I remember buying books and watching films and, you know, reading the blurb on stuff, and it would say, this is how you overcome fear. This is how you overcome depression. And I'd read it. I'd come home with excited and thinking, there's hope. And then I'd read it and it was a lie. It wasn't telling the truth. It certainly, if they had the truth, they weren't telling it. They weren't courageous enough to tell it, or perhaps they couldn't articulate it, but it didn't give it me. And I realised later it was leading me to find it for myself. So this one particular time, I just thought, I am not living like this anymore. I'm going to do something about this. And boom, this concept nucleus, they would call it in Judaism, this idea fell into my mind about fear. I mean, the whole concept of a fear pyramid. Write down everything you're afraid of. Confront every fear. And just suddenly there was a light, curiosity. Curiosity, the brain can't process curiosity and fear at the same time. So I got this curiosity and I thought, I'm going to confront everything I'm afraid of. So I got things like, I'm afraid of spiders, I'm afraid of dentists, I was afraid of going into karate tournaments. I was afraid of admitting that I was afraid. And I thought, well, I'll write those down. And so I wrote them down and started to confront the things I was afraid of, that I knew I was afraid of. And I realised as I did it, Brian, that they were placeholders. So behind those fears, you know, I realised I wasn't really afraid of spiders. I was afraid of the physiology, the feelings of adrenaline. So I developed a desensitization to the feelings. So I realised I didn't have control of my physiology. I had lots of poor conditioning, I had lots of old scars, lots of things that triggered adrenaline that would send me running, you know. So I started to climb this fear pyramid. and confront one fear at a time. And as I confronted the fears, I realised there were fears below those fears. So there's a fear of my wife. You know, I was absolutely afraid of my wife, you know, and I didn't admit I was afraid. I used to just say anything for a quiet life. But if she said jump, I would say, do you mind if I finish the hoovering first? You know, it was that kind of thing. I didn't like that feeling of conflict. I was afraid of my mother. I've never had a tattoo because I was afraid of my mother. I was afraid of my mother withdrawing love. I was afraid of success. I didn't know what success was. You know, where we grew up, success was like just some random, you know, 6 or 7 figure deal for a book that, you know, that you read about in the newspapers, or someone that has an amazing idea and makes a fortune from it. Just something random, but we didn't know what success was. So success frightened us, you know, people from my class. And so when I started to write these things down, I was afraid of success. I was afraid of what success was. I didn't understand it. I was afraid of the rigour I'd have to do in order to understand success. I was afraid what success would do in my life. What happens if I become an author, Brian? You know, will my wife like that? My wife was terrified of my ambition. You know, well, how would my friends feel if they're pissing in the trough next to someone that's on Richard and Judy? Yesterday he was just one of the guys, now he's on Richard and Judy. How will they cope with that? Not very well, as it turned out. You know, people didn't cope with it, because suddenly I went from being Geoff the factory worker to, you know, Geoff a published author, or Geoff, you know, that's on the telly, or Geoff that's on the radio. And people didn't know how to, they didn't know how to process that. You know, and I started, you know, so I got this fear pyramid and I'm climbing up it, and I'm confronting all these things. So I suddenly become covered in tattoos because I suddenly feel free. And what I realised, Brian, was I wasn't overcoming fears necessarily. I was finding fears, recognising that the fears contained energy and they blocked energy, or they contained light and they block light, or they contained consciousness and they block consciousness. They also processed consciousness. If I've got a block, if I've got a fear and light comes into me, or consciousness, it's going to go through the filter of that fear and project onto the world, you know, from my fear. So if my life's a shitstorm, it's because it's coming through that filter. So when I removed that, when I overcame that fear, I converted the nature of the fear, and it was liberated, and the effulgence that was in the fear expanded into me, so I got a wider consciousness. I took away the negative filter, so I've got a cleaner filter, and I also made room. I created a vacuum. So there was a vacancy in me that was filled with consciousness. So every time I contracted by removing a fear, I expanded in consciousness. And consciousness is a spirit. You know, it's living. It's panpsychic. It's got consciousness. So as the spirit expanded in me, the spirit started to work around like an antibody, getting rid of other fears. We can convert this fear. We can convert that fear. So and this has taken me a long time to fully understand. I wasn't overcoming a fear. You know, as they say in the Bible, overcome evil with good. It means overcome ignorance with knowledge. It means overcome fear with consciousness, or overcome a demon with consciousness. So as I kept expanding, as I climbed up the pyramid, I was literally removing old filters, converting old fears, and making room for light. So I was growing exponentially. So the kid that was, you know, scared to leave the house, with all this block, was suddenly like, you know, it was like, boom, coming from here, you know, from the dantian. My dantian was clear. Well, not completely clear, but clearer. And I was expanding. So I became almost unrecognisable. So I'd gone from this skinny, articulate, kind of slightly feminine, long-haired young guy to being this guy that's, you know, wherever the fears are, I'm going to overcome them. Some of them were very subtle.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim, watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, gotta do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
You took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I'm just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
It's also been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just an overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you got to pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future.